Howdy everyone, Poacher here with an Age of Magic video, and in today's video we're going to cover witches for Nightmare raiding and everything you need to know about these characters, and there is a lot. Out of all the primary 4 factions that you are using in Nightmare raiding, witches are probably the most intense in terms of everything you need to put into them for them to be successful. They are very difficult heroes because they are by nature quite squishy, so you find yourself dying using these characters a lot, but as you build them, they do become quite tanky and they can do very, very well. So we'll get over everything you need to know. The core for the witches, in my personal opinion, now I know there will be some people out there that disagree, is Lilith, Banshee, Nora, Diana, and Belladonna. Now, some people might be using Flame and Tiona in their witch squads. I just do not recommend it. You can, there's nothing against it, but they're just not characters built for raiding. Their strengths are elsewhere, PvP, COC, anywhere but Nightmare Raid. The harder the difficulties get, these characters just do not help you as much as the 5 characters on the screen. That's my personal opinion as someone that has been doing Nightmare raiding since it's come out and has done all difficulties of Nightmare raiding. I will never change from using this squad. You do what you want, but I am teaching you my personal opinion and how I effectively get through the raid itself. So let's get into the more depth details about this faction and how to build these characters. Raid knowledge. As you know, Nightmare Raid is split into 3 areas, and each area has 4 subsections. The witches are used in the second subsection on the left, the first subsection in the middle, and the 4th subsection on the right. The raid knowledge you need to know about these heroes is they are very easily killed. These characters, by nature, are very squishy, and when you come up against waves of enemies that can do either very strong single target damage or AoE damage, you find that it wipes out your characters like Nora and your Diana quite quickly. You're probably wondering why Diana? She's the tank. I will explain that shortly. So that is your biggest obstacle to overcome, their squishiness. And as mentioned, and I'll keep mentioning it, this is overcome by just the amount of resources you need to put in this character. The faction is best played on manual. There is no chance you are doing well in any of these nodes unless your witches are absolutely decked out to the max that you are going to do well on auto. It's just not the case. There are skills, for example, Belladonna's Resurrect, that if you are playing on auto, she's just going to cast that ability no matter what. Doesn't matter if you've got dead characters or not, she's just going to cast it for the heal. So it's things like that that are going to give you the advantage. If you are playing on manual, you're going to time those abilities and help you succeed in these nodes. The faction requires a ridiculous amount of awakenings. Now, a lot of the awakenings I'm going to suggest to you later on aren't necessarily 100% required, but if you are pushing those harder levels of Nightmare raiding, I promise you, even the the smallest increase in effectiveness in the skill can help you a tremendous amount. An example of this would be Banshee's basic attack. It can do huge damage when awakened, so just keep that in mind. Medallions, very important for these heroes. Nora, Diana, for example, extremely important. I understand medallions are a very difficult thing to get. They're either not available anymore or they're hidden behind a paywall, and that can sometimes set you back. But when you are pushing those higher nodes, of course, anything can help you, and medallions are going to be one of those things. So we'll cover still the stats you need in medallions to help you succeed in Nightmare raiding. As the map suggests, it's pretty straightforward. The right hand side is going to be the hardest area for witches. The left hand side, the second hardest, and the middle is the easiest. I'm not saying it's easy, it is still very difficult, it's just the easiest of the 3. Moving on to gear priority. As a foundation, I always suggest gear level 13 at the absolute minimum when entering Nightmare Raid. As mentioned in my previous video with Cloud Wanderers, you could probably enter with a little bit lower, but I recommend 13. I think that is the foundation. Beyond 13, you do want to prioritize certain heroes over others. For me, personally, Nora, Diana, Belladonna are absolute top of the range. You need to get these characters to 14, potentially 15 if you are able to get them to 15. Second tier, Banshee. Third tier, Lilith. Let's go over the reasons why. Starting with Nora, she's just going to die, no matter what. A character can look at her the wrong way and she will explode. She is one of the squishiest characters in the game I have ever seen. And that is coming from a faction that actually quite has some very decent defensive abilities and damage mitigation. So you want to get her to gear 14, gear 15 if you can, because any AoE ability that hits her wrong, if she gets hit by a flame or 7 knives, or just a character that can just do insane single target damage, she will just die. So priority Nora. Diana, now the way Diana works is her abilities allow her to absorb damage from the enemy and redirect it to herself if the enemy does AoE abilities. So when you're going into those higher levels of Nightmare difficulty, those enemies are dealing a lot of damage and she's just absorbing it. She's absorbing it and she is sometimes dying from the damage. So you want to prioritize gear on her, you want to get her as tanky as possible, so that when she does take that AoE damage, it's just not going to kill her straight away. She's obviously boosted very heavily with Awakenings and Medallions, and she actually becomes very, very tanky, but the lower her gear, you will find her just, again, like Nora, just dying because she's absorbing so much. Belladonna, she's the healer. AI typically aims for healers on a team, and Belladonna serves you no purpose whatsoever if she is dead. She has great healing, she gives you evasion, and she just needs to stay alive as long as possible. Gear her up, allow her to stay on the battlefield for as long as possible. Banshee is second tier. Now, Banshee, honestly, I would almost put her in tier 1 as well, because the thing with Banshee is her damage output is so insane. The higher her gear is, the more damage she's going to do. She can just take out characters extremely quickly, and that's obviously going to lower the amount of damage the enemy is doing to you, because she can rip through them, take them out very quickly. And the beautiful thing about Banshee is that she can just attack whoever she wants. There is nothing that can stop her from attacking past a tank. If the enemy is invisible, doesn't matter, she's going to go for him. She is one of the best assassins in the game, best rogues, whatever you want to call her. She does the job so well, but it's so noticeable when she's geared up. I have mine at gear 14. I am pushing her to gear 15 because I know that when I get to the nodes where I'm using the witches, she can just solve so many problems for me. Lastly, Lilith. Like the Cloud Wanderers, the gear for the boss is irrelevant. Lilith isn't typically aimed by the enemy, she doesn't do a huge amount of damage, she's there more for support, and her abilities actually allow her to take less damage when the witch allies die. So she becomes quite tanky naturally. Her strength comes from the debuffs she can apply to the enemy, and again, she's not being targeted by the enemy, so she doesn't really need to be prioritized gear-wise above any of the other witches on the squad. When it comes to witch medallions, honestly, you just want to focus on hit points. I know this is going to seem very tiresome, very stagnant, and a lot of building and strategizing and so forth, but hit points are just superior. Now, if you come up with damage reduction, for example, there's no reason why you can't take damage reduction. Damage reduction is the second best to hit points. The only reason I suggest hit points over damage reduction, this was brought up by someone in the community, is that there are more heroes in the game that can deal with damage reduction than there are heroes in the game that can deal damage to max hit points. So hit points are just the best stat. Now, for Lilith, hit points, she's going to survive as long as possible. You're not aiming for damage on Lilith. You just want her debuffs to be applied to the enemy. You'll do plenty of damage through that. Nora, hit points. Though she is a caster, her damage does not come from damage. Her damage comes from her cryostasis ability and the ice block she applies to the enemy. When that triggers, it deals damage. So you just want her to survive as long as possible. Belladonna, obviously the healer, survive as long as possible. Diana, you just want her to survive as long as possible. Like I said, she's taking a lot of damage. She's absorbing a lot of damage. Not absorbing, that's the wrong word. Redirecting a lot of damage from the allies to herself. Hit points, hit points, hit points, hit points. Just build her up. But again, damage reduction, a close second. So if you get a damage reduction, go with it, go with it. Banshee, You do not want hit points on her. She's one of the few heroes in the game where it's not recommended. You want attack damage or critical damage. Personally, I'm going attack damage, but if a crit damage comes up, you sure as poo, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. She is one of the best damage dealers in the game, so yeah. I'm building her for that role, and like I said, she can bypass any protection on the enemy, and with the stats on her medallion built into damage, she can potentially snipe people very quickly, just get them off the field ASAP. So that's how I personally am building my witches. Moving into awakenings, I'm just going to glance over this. Now, I do recommend some awakenings in this video that are probably not as high priority in my awakening spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet is probably the best place to get information. So the link to that is in the description below. So we are adding all the awakenings and their priority in that spreadsheet. Go and check it out. So we'll glance over everything you need to know about these heroes, and if you want more info, go to the spreadsheet. So Lilith, you want to awaken her Special 1, Special 2, Special 3, and her leader. Special 1 is going to give her initiative if all her other abilities are not on cooldown. It's a great way to start a battle. You give the protection to your characters from debuffs, give herself initiative, and it can lead her straight, well, not straight into, but pretty far into her next skill, where she can then start applying her debuffs. Her Special 2 and Special 3 are the same. Suffocation and Poison are great debuffs she applies to the enemy, and when these skills are awakened, they ignore Fortitude. Moving on to her leadership skill, improves damage mitigation for allied witches, and it does something else as well. Forget off the top of my head, but her leadership is definitely going to help you as well. So they're all recommended. Like I said, if you want more info on the skills specifically, go and check out the spreadsheet. For Banshee, I recommend awakening everything. Every single one of her awakenings improves damage in some way or another, and her passive prevents her from taking critical damage. So she becomes quite tanky herself, very hard to kill, while all the same being able to just deal tremendous amounts of damage. It's another reason why I don't recommend hit points on her medallion, is because when her passive is awakened, you find that she's not really taking a lot of damage as well. The only downside to Banshee is, just remember, when she dies, she does come back to life once, but then once she dies again, she cannot be resurrected. But I promise you, you are not going to find many situations where the AI is killing Banshee before any of the other characters. So resurrecting her is never going to be a thing, because she's not going to die before your Belladonna. She's not going to die before Diana. She's not going to die before Nora. It's just never going to happen. I don't ever see it happening personally. She's very tanky with her awakened passive, and all the extra damage she gets from her other abilities. I promise you, you're just going to fall in love with her using this hero when she's just at her prime. For Belladonna, I recommend her Special 1, her Special 2, and her passive. Special 1 is going to remove debuffs from 2 allies, I believe it is. So it's very helpful. You can line it up. Normally, you're using it specifically to get the evasion stacks, but once you are getting that bonus of debuff removal, it helps a tremendous amount. Special 2 is going to improve the healing over time that she applies to her allies, and it resurrects an ally as well. When this skill is awakened, it resurrects that ally with more HP than normal, so just gives them a bit more survivability and allows them to get back into the fight. And her passive, straight up, it just gives her 50% more hit points, so her survivability increases by 50%. Definitely get that before everything else. Give her the best chance of surviving in battle. It's a great passive, even though it's just stats. It's huge for her. It's massive. Awakening Nora, I suggest Special 1, Special 2, and her passive. Special 1 is going to allow more shielding to generate through the ability. Special 2 allows you control over the enemy. Cryostasis is one of my favorite abilities in the game. Cryostasis applies the Ice Block debuff to the enemy. When the Ice Block is triggered through damage, it deals damage to the enemy team. It's an AoE explosion. It deals damage depending on the defensive stats of the enemy it's applied to. So normally you apply it to a tank. That's where the most damage is going to come through. Awakening her second ability is going to allow 2 Ice Blocks to apply, the primary target and a random enemy. The thing about Ice Block as well is if you play on manual, you can prevent yourself from attacking the enemies that have Ice Block on them, and those enemies will skip a turn. So you can either use it on a tank to get huge damage, or you can use it on a character that's a nuisance to you to just skip their turn, and you can deal with them a bit later on the fight. Mix this with Banshee as well. Banshee, one of her skills, actually spreads the Ice Block as well. So you can get 3-4 characters that have Ice Block on them, and then you can trigger it, get huge damage. And passive, again, it adds damage mitigation through enemies using defensive abilities. So even though she's a caster, a lot of her abilities are defensive based. They add a lot of damage mitigation to your team. Her damage, like I said, comes through her cryostasis. And her basic ability actually does a lot of damage as well, but you don't need to awaken it. If you want to go for it, you're just going to get more damage from it. But overall, she's a wonderful hero. She just needs a lot of love and care and resources. Finally, we have Diana, and I suggest Special 1, Special 2, and her passive. All of the awakenings pretty much increase her survivability, increase damage mitigation, and just allow her to be able to take as much damage from the enemy while also reducing that damage that she takes. So for example, her second ability, it increases the damage mitigation on herself, so she will allow herself to take less damage when she's absorbing that damage from the enemy's AoE abilities. Her passive as well, it improves the damage absorption she can take, so she can take more damage from AoE abilities, which sounds bad, but it also reduces the incoming damage, so it's really good for her. It adds so much survivability. This character is all about shielding as well, so awakening her Special 1 is going to increase the amount of shield she applies to herself and her allies. She at one point was a very bad hero, but Playcott did adjust her through her awakenings. Her awakenings alone made her, personally, if we're not considering power creep, personally, I think she is one of the best tanks in the game. But yeah, she needs the awakenings, and once she does, she takes so much damage away from the other witches, and they need it because they are, like I said, by nature, a very squishy faction. But she is the glue to the witch faction, and her leadership ability, though it's not recommended on here and it's not for this game mode, her leadership ability awakened as well is going to make her a great hero for clan battles as well, so just keep that in mind. But there you go, there is the witches. If you have any questions, by all means let me know. Love to help you. This is a lot of information based off my personal experience. I have put a lot of time and effort into my witches, so they are one of my best not clan battles, sorry, nightmare raid teams. And yeah, they're one of my favorite factions as well. So though they require a lot, once it's in there, once they're done, they're one of your best teams. So yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I will answer it to the best of my ability, and we'll be around the world. Until next time, please take care of yourself.